since the Sandbox fans, the moment that you've all been waiting for. Our first in-season power rankings. 10-1. Who just missed? Me and Twon legit yelling at each other all episode. It's great. And we're so happy that you're here to join us. This list gets updated every 4 weeks throughout the NFL season, so make sure you're following along for episode 2 after week 8. But without further ado, Twon, here we are.
I can promise you that I did not actually put the Jets in here this time. So
I'm so happy.
I can promise you this makes a lot more sense.
Without giving up a spot, did the Chiefs still make your top 10?
Of course.
Okay.
Oh my God, yeah.
Just making sure.
They did. They went up. Their record looks good right now, even though they're banged up. Like, they're just finding ways to win games. They got a big zebra on their side. There we go.
Yeah, you got it out.
Just once.
I'm dying to know where a team like Washington is on this list. The Vikings I know that they're gonna be a good spot for the way that you do your rankings. Also interested to hear the order that you provide the AFC North in, because I feel like that's gonna be very telling coming from you. But I have a few teams that just missed the rankings, and there's no disrespect on this. The only reason why I'm mentioning these teams is because I feel like at a point in time in the season, they can very much insert themselves in the rankings. I know you have a couple of teams that you want to mention. Do you want to start before I kind of share?
Steve, there are 2 teams that are not in, and we're going to start red hot, that will be in the rankings at some point. They absolutely will, but with the records that they have right now and with the way other teams are playing, I do not have them in there.
And
Baltimore and San Fran.
Wow.
San Fran plays in a very tough division.
Here we go.
San Fran plays
Buckle up.
Very, very tough division that they will not win their division because Seattle will win their division.
Buckle up.
I think that San Fran has dropped some games already that have been questionable. They have been, just because they got right against the Patriots doesn't automatically make them this world beater team. I had them at like 8, I want to say, at the start of the season. They're at 11 right now. Baltimore's at 12. Baltimore will make it up there. They will. But they're 2-2. One of their wins, Dallas almost came back and beat them. And I think they're going to start 2-3 because I do think they dropped this game to the Bengals. So this is something that looking forward in the season as well. Will Baltimore be in there? Yes, 110%. But right now, there are some teams that I got to give more credit to for how much more impressive they have looked throughout the 4 games this season.
So I have to say, Baltimore was also my 11. Baltimore was also my 11. And I really...
They'll be there, though. They'll be there. They will.
I don't feel great about it. The win versus Buffalo was a huge statement. I know that they're capable of that, but the ways that they lost also don't sit right with me.
And Dallas almost came back and beat them. Yes. I don't want to see that. And Lamar said, let's just fucking not make sure that happens. Love it, but... Dude, you can't have that happen.
Without playing any division games yet. And you know that they're going to drop some of those.
And that is one of the... Even though that there are some 1-3 records in there and stuff like that, that is still a very tough... You go play the Bengals, that's a tough game. You go play the Steelers, that's a tough game.
For sure.
You go play the Browns. Even though the Browns aren't that good, that is going to be a tough game.
For sure. The Niners are on the list for me.
Okay.
It's not a great... Five. It's not... No.
Okay.
It's not a great spot. Teams that have just outside... My 12 would have been the Green Bay Packers. Okay. I trust them more than the Falcons, who are my 13. Okay. I think that they're a more well-rounded team. I am a little bit impressed with Atlanta's defense. They've kept opponents very low scoring. I don't think that they figured everything out offensively yet, but their ground game is very decisive. It's what you expected. This is what we wanted last year. Like, it's not that we didn't want Algier to touch the ball. It's just like he shouldn't be touching it more than Bijan Robinson.
He shouldn't.
And clearly, like, we're seeing that got regulated this year. Mooney plays a huge role for them. Pitts is very similar to what the rest of the tight end position is around the league. Drake London has stepped up. He's not going to be a guy that's going to have 10 catches for $170. He's going to catch 5 or 6, and he is going to be a little bit more of like that bigger mold and maybe sneak in the end zone. Very interesting. The Saints are behind the Falcons on this list, and the Saints are 14.
Saints and Falcons both not in my list, but they're both right there. I actually have the Saints a little bit further down than the Falcons, like maybe 3 spots, like because I have 32 teams on my notes. But I think Falcons are right around that 14. I had Saints right around that 17.
The only other two teams I want to mention on here are the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Jets. Dallas Cowboys at 15, New York Jets at 16. And the biggest team left off of the rankings and the top 16 are the Philadelphia Eagles.
They are also not on mine, 100%.
But I do think that A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith healthy after a bye week, losing the way that they did through the first quarter of the season, I think that this is a team that we could see back-end rankings. They won't make the top 5 this year.
I think that the Eagles, well, I just don't think it's going to look like it's going to. They're going to win more games, sure, but I don't think it's going to look pretty, and I think that organization is going to run into some serious problems as a senior. I think there's just tension there, and I think it's waiting to blow up.
Yeah. All right. At 10. This is where I have the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
So I almost swapped them for Baltimore. I really did. Mm-hmm. But here's my whole thing with San Francisco, right? We know that they have the talent. Jordan Mason went in, and I don't want to say people are saying like, oh, Christian McCaffrey, who? But it's just like this team with that offensive line is going to be able to produce a sound ground game. They are. There's no way around it. Defense is still playing pretty legit. They have the same coach, but they're not dominating in the fashion that you would like to see them do so, especially like what we saw versus New England. It kind of took them a little bit, and last year they would have put 48 on that New England team.
They don't get the, what was it? It was a pick six, I think.
Yeah,
was it a fumble? Yeah, it was a pick six, and they don't get that. What is it? The score is like 23-14 or whatever, 23-13.
No,
that
I
looks
know.
a lot different than 30. The number 30 looks very pretty, but without the defense scoring a touchdown, it's not at that number.
For sure.
And they're getting flagged a lot.
They are. And you know, I think that after some of these guys are getting a little bit older, some of them are getting a little bit more injured. Like, I still don't feel like Hufanga has that full impact that you know, we know and expect from him, if you want me to be honest. Fred Warner came back from an injury, like, very soundly. Haven't heard Greenlaw too much, so that's obviously something you're kind of hoping to hear. But they're banged up, like, up in the front too, and you know, Bosa isn't a name that's like, oh my god, you see what Nick Bosa did this week. I know that this team has less talent than they did in the past, and I know it's just kind of like, hey, like, they're probably going to be around. This offense needs to play better. The people that beg to be paid, and Ayuk and you know, Debo, like, they need to step up to the plate. Kittle's going to be Kittle, and I feel very solid about Brock Purdy's play, but can't have San Francisco any higher than 10.
Brock Purdy's like one of those guys over there that I think he's playing his best football still. Like,
for sure.
One of the only people that are still playing their best. So.
For sure.
You want me to go with 10?
10.
Steve at 10. This is where I have the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
So, nothing crazy, but I have them
above
over San Fran. I have them over Baltimore. I look at this, and they won 2 games with their backup quarterbacks. Those are difficult games. The other 2 games they lost, one to Philly and one of the second game of the season, going to travel to Brazil. Game they could have won. I really wish they would have won, but
the Vikings.
They didn't. Yeah, they just didn't end up doing it. And then the Vikings game was the other one. Yeah, they come back and they almost win again, but I got them here.
Got down to too big of a deficit.
It did. It got down to too big to a deficit, but I like their ability to stay in every game somehow. They always will find their way to make it close.
They're going to beat the Vikings in Minnesota.
They will.
Yeah.
They will, and I think they'll still end up winning the division, honestly. I like Detroit a lot, but I still think when it comes down to number, I'm not saying they go further in the playoffs, but as far as the win total goes, I still hold true to the fact that the Packers might have the bigger win number.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, you heard where they're respected in my list,
Yep.
and it's not very far off. I think Detroit's one of the most complete teams in the entire NFL. And I think, like, if they not taking anything away from Dan Campbell, because I think those guys love that he's their coach, but if Detroit had Matt LaFleur with what they have, they would be the best team in football. If you want my honest opinion. 9. This is where I have the Kansas City Chiefs.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, and I'm someone that respects, you know, getting a win however you can get it, right? And I think that they've shown that tremendously throughout this year. It's just really tough for me to say, hey, this is the team that you need to beat for the Super Bowl with the way that they're playing. Mahomes isn't playing well.
He's not.
and the lack of talent, like even if Rice comes back in the playoffs this year, whatever his injury is, right? It's just real tough to see them continuing to win. I don't think that they would win 13 games with the way that they're playing. I mean, the Chargers should have beat them. They really should have. And the next time that they play, they probably will. The Raiders aren't going to get a win versus them. The Broncos are going to play them. The Broncos are going to play them tough. My whole thing with Kansas City is like they're good enough to figure it out, but the lack of weapons is not enough to win for me personally. I mean, they impressed me enough to be on this list, and 4-0 is where you want to be after 4 weeks in the league. But I think I've seen more flashes on both sides of the ball from every single team above them than the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm dying to hear where you have them on your rankings.
We will get there. But at 9, this is where I have the Washington Commanders.
Wow. Low.
Holy
low? Shit.
I think this is...
Dude, through the first 4 weeks...
Yeah, we're looking at a 3-1 team here. Probably, my opinion, 3-2 coming up this week. Talented, very, very talented, but they're talented on one side of the ball, in my opinion. I really don't think that defense is good. I think that if a team's going to shoot out with them, I think that team is going to have a chance at winning. They've played really, really good so far. And 3-1's a great spot, but when I look at the teams I have above them in a head-to-head game, I am taking these other teams. Due to experience, due to talent on the team. They have a stud in Jaden Daniels. They have a top receiver in Terry McLaurin. Maybe not numbers are showing it right now, but as far as skill and talent goes, they have it. Brian Robinson's an absolute monster. Their O-line's playing well, but it's not like the best O-line.
Through the first 4 weeks, I didn't necessarily base it off of that, because I think later on in the season, that's something like that I would consider is like, oh, like if Baltimore played the 49ers right now, like Baltimore might be able to win that game with how banged up the 49ers are. I have some things that I want to share about Washington, and I think like what you said, a lot of it is factual, but to say that they're not, a top 5 team through the first 4 weeks of this NFL season, I think that would be an incorrect statement. So
right.
I have Washington here, and look, like this isn't to back up like the fact that I took them to win this division, but everything that I said on why they could is coming to fruition literally the first quarter of the season.
I mean, they've had impressive games. They've had impressive games against Cincy. They've had
Arizona.
They skid one against
huge.
The Giants, but they had a big win against Arizona. That was a super big win, but when I'm looking at the caliber of those teams right now,
I get
they're
it.
not the highest caliber team.
I get it.
Some
As
of
a
these
rookie,
other
though,
teams above them, they have better wins.
Yeah, I mean, but you look at like what Caleb Williams is for the Bears right now, and Jaden Daniels ain't that.
Oh no, 100% not. And that's why they're in the rankings.
Yeah.
Like, they're not. They're 3-1 too. Like
Yeah.
they are a 3-1 football team right now. They're studs.
Yeah.
9 is a great spot in the power rankings.
No, it is.
But I'm just looking at the teams above them. I rank their wins higher than I'm ranking Washington's wins right now.
Interesting. All right, 8. Do you have anything else to add there?
No, because I know you're going to want to talk about Washington.
8. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
Denver does leave a bad taste in my mouth. It does.
Really?
Yeah, it does. And I know that that's a game that we felt very alike that could go that way, and it did. I'm confident that they'll win this division. I still feel that way. I know you like the way the Falcons are playing.
I agree with you. I think Tampa's going to win the division.
Yeah. Baker's playing MVP caliber football. Godwin's healthy. Mike is Mike. They have a duo of running backs, which I feel like is a little bit better. And they're putting up points and they're playing smooth. I would like to see the defense play. Look, I know that they're not giving up a shit ton of points, but I also don't think that they're playing like the best defense in the league. And I'm not saying that they have to. But this is like the next step for like Tampa Bay. For them to crack a top 5 spot for me. They're probably top 5 for you. So I'm interested to hear, how the rest of your list breaks out. But when we start getting into like these division games for a team like Tampa Bay, for Baltimore and things like that, that's when colors are really going to start to show. And it starts Thursday night here for Tampa Bay. The stage is set, and Atlanta has been prepared and came ready to play in every single game that they've played this season.
I like it. I like it a lot. You will hear from me about Tampa later, but at 8, Pittsburgh.
Ooh, that didn't sound like a confident.
I didn't know if you were liking Pittsburgh or not. I didn't know if that was
Pittsburgh 7 in my ranking, so we could talk about it here.
Great, yeah, I really, really like Pittsburgh this year. I think they have the best defensive player in all of football. And I don't think it's fucking close, honestly. I think TJ Watt is just that much better than everyone
Dexter
else.
Lawrence is close, but yes.
Dexter Lawrence is playing great, but TJ Watt is having this impact where he's now making everyone else on his team better because of how fucking good he is.
For sure. And you can't cover him one-on-one.
They're good at running the football as a team. May not be one individual effort or anything like that, but they're good at running the football as a team right now. And Justin Fields, each game is starting to get better. We just saw in week 4. If he did not improve in passing in week 4, I think he would have been maybe closer to 10. But he did. And they lost that game to the Colts after almost coming back to win it. So they're one possession away from possibly being 4-0. I think they're playing great football, and I think they have the best defensive player in the league. Pittsburgh Steelers are here at 8.
Yeah, like my whole thing with having them because I honestly would love to. Like, and even like the Indy loss doesn't really faze me that much, if you want me to be honest. But their lack of offense does, and it's not that. Like, I know that that's just like the scheme that they're playing, but like if they had like a Bijan type of like we're not giving Arthur Smith Bijan ever again. But if they had if they had a Bijan-esque running back, or like if they had an Aaron Jones, this team would be like top 3 team in the NFL right now, no doubt. The lack of offense to win them football games is terrifying to me. And it's not that I think that they're not good enough to win the division, because right now they're my favorite to win the division. But not playing the way that they are
right now, by the way, just saying, they're well over plus 300.
What?
To win the division.
Oh, I mean, those are great odds. I mean, Baltimore still should have a great case, since he kind of messed that all up for themselves. And I think, like, we all kind of think the Browns are out of it at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, it's not like it's not. I can't say the offense is bad because Fields is playing good. It's just, I mean, when you have Pickens and Calvin Austin to throw to, like, I'm no disrespect to them, but if they added a 1 there, I'd feel a lot better about that.
Hey, Adams would, like, we talked about that.
Would change things like that.
Change things quick.
And also, like, I just kind of feel like Jalen Warren provided a spark for that team that they're missing right now. Mm-hmm. And Patterson has played pretty well. But this is exactly what I expected for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And their offense, it needs to be better. Like, it doesn't look drastically improved from last year. Like, yeah, they're not turning the ball over. Like, that's great. But, I mean, I feel like the whole moving on from Pickett thing was like, hey, like, we can run a modern pro-style offense. And I just don't think, like, that's what they're doing. And I know the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I will say that it's a bit concerning to call them, like, a top 10 team. And, like, they legit can't score when they want to.
I think that they're just one of those teams I think will continue to get better and better, because I think Fields is going to get more and more comfortable with that offense. And once they start getting comfortable with him producing more as a, solidified quarterback for them, I think that's when you're going to start to see more. Another piece, of course, they absolutely need it. But do
you consider this team a contender?
If any team makes the playoffs, they're automatically a contender, because anything can happen when it gets there. But I really do think they're going to win the division. And I think their defense is going to win them a lot of games. I think they can win a playoff game. Do I think they're going to make the Super Bowl? I don't think so. Don't think that's realistic. I think they need more to do that. They need to show me more to do that. But I do think they can go in there and win a playoff game.
Okay.
So you had them at 7. My 7, Steve, is the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
Love the Seattle Seahawks. Think they win this division. I think they have a top 5 running back. I think their receiver core is elite. Some of the best receiving trio you have. Geno's playing well. If he keeps playing well, this team is going to be a force to be reckoned with. The defense is a really good and talented defense. We just haven't seen it at its best yet. Once we do, dude, this Seahawks team is going to win 12 games.
Yeah. No, I have the Seahawks here at 6. So I feel really good about Seattle. I have them above Pittsburgh because the offense is eons better than what Pittsburgh has been in a decade. What that since Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, that's the last time that offense looked that well. And I think a healthy Seahawks defense is something that I don't want to say is on the same level as the Steelers, but it's not a far off conversation. Mm-hmm. They don't have the best defensive player in football by any means, but they have a great abundance of 11 defensive players that I would stack up against almost any other defense in the entire NFL.
Everyone's like top 10 at their position.
Yes.
Most people are top 10 at their position.
With Seattle here, they haven't let up a tremendous. I mean, with the exception of the Lions game last night, like my notes here were prior to that, but they haven't gave up like a tremendous amount of points, like by any means. Like we're talking about a team that's given up less than 60 points, with the exception of last night's game, which will get them over like that 100 number. But I mean, this team is scoring. They have the depth. Like one of the best running backs in football missed 3-4 weeks, and we didn't bat an eye on this team. And this is with a guy that was considered a backup quarterback. They're dealing. Mike McDonald has gone in there and absolutely like taken over. I think it's a healthy culture in Seattle. I think they're the favorite to win that division. I think that they're the best team in that division right now. I do think that if the 49ers change things, it's easy for people to deem them as a better team because of the talent and the way that they pay people. But I feel really good about Seattle this year, and I really do want to have them higher on this list, but I think through the next 4 weeks of the season, it's going to be really telling. We have some bye weeks coming up. Some teams just had guys hurt. Some teams have guys that are coming back healthy. This is a team that's moving on all cylinders at this moment. We just talked about DK in the fantasy rankings being an absolute dog, dominant in the league, and Kenneth Walker coming back is only going to open things up for that offense and allow them to play complementary football, which I believe is one of the biggest goals of being a contender to win a Super Bowl.
110%. Love the Seahawks. So you had them at 6, Steve. We're going to go to my 6. I think with the way you've been talking about this team, you're going to have them pretty high. And I think you would expect me to have them high, but I have them here at 6 as the Detroit Lions.
Wow. I'm shook. I'm shook right now.
Great football team. Really, really good football team. They do have the loss, and I'm going to take that into consideration against a good football team. But they're a great team. They're sitting here at 6. And I know I just said I have the Packers below them. I still don't know if I'm going to say that I do think the Packers end up with more wins. I think that Detroit will go deep in the ball. I think Detroit will make the Super Bowl this year.
Detroit's a lock for the NFC Championship.
As far as regular season goes right now, I do think they're going to have games where they're going to just drop a couple. They're going to have a couple of duds out there. But they are playing tremendous football. And they're an elite team. They're here at 6. You're sitting there at 6, and you're still an excellent team.
Do you think Detroit's going to win 12 games this year?
No.
Wow. Really?
I think they're rated.
What makes you feel better about the Lions last year than this year?
Listen, as far as going the distance, I think that not every team that makes the Super Bowl has the best record.
No, 100%.
You look at Green Bay last year. They were 9-8. They made it to the
conference
championship. Yeah, against the 49ers, and they gave them a hell of a fucking game. I think
2 minutes away from winning it.
I think we're going to see an 11-6 Detroit team get somehow into the 5 seed and then just run through everybody when we get to the playoffs.
Interesting.
But based off of they're 3-1 right now. They dropped it to another top 5, a game to a top 5 team. That's where I have them a little bit different.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that out of you, Twon. Not at all.
We're always keeping everyone on their toes here.
Yeah, I'm definitely on my toes right now. Top 5.
Here we go.
Top 5 of the power rankings. Let's go. The Washington Commanders. Okay. Guys, look, it truthfully pains me to say that the Commanders turned it around faster than the New York Giants. So I want you all to know that. But it's not like I didn't see this coming. You guys been hearing me yap about this since August.
I know.
But everything kind of came to fruition. They have the coaches in place. They added the leadership and the veterans that they needed to become a sound football team. Let's keep in mind that 3 years ago, this was a team that we were talking about, should have been canned with the owner. Trent Williams, one of the best players in football, literally developed cancer in their organization. Some crazy shit was going down.
Nothing was going right for Washington.
Nothing. And it's just crazy how a draft class can impact that. And we saw that with Detroit. And we're seeing that with Washington right now. And I don't even think that they have the offensive line completely figured out. And they still have some holes on defense. And that's what I wanted to talk about here. And I didn't mention it on your Washington kind of spew. Washington is the only, but prior to week 4, Washington is the only team in my top 15 to allow 100 points this season. Obviously, Seattle just did that. But for the rest of these teams, not giving up 100 points. Washington did, and yeah, they look great, and we're not talking about the defensive side of the ball as much as they should. And yeah, that competition is something that we need to keep in mind. But man, if the Patriots started this way, they would be in your top 5. If the Giants started this way, they'd be in my top 5. So because of the Washington Commanders, I'm not going to give them that. Of course I am, because we call it how it is. This is unbiased power rankings, and we're talking through the first 4 weeks. In the Washington Commanders, I almost said Redskins. They should be the Redskins. The Washington Commanders absolutely deserve that. Do I think that there's going to be struggles and hiccups later in the year? Yes. Do I think teams like Dallas and Philly are going to play better later in the year? I do. Do I think that their offense could potentially get figured out at a point in time? Yeah, but I think like you have a good complement of runners in B-Rob Eckler and Jaden Daniels himself. Yep. I'm very curious about the core of pass catchers, but it doesn't seem like they are at the moment. But this defense is going to have to win them football games this year, and they haven't had to yet. That's the next challenge for this team.
100%.
They're 5 and they can't be better than that. They're not contenders at the moment. They're damn close to it. Washington Commanders 5.
I really like the Commanders, man. I do. They're a fun team to watch, and it's always like we look at those teams, and that was me with the Lions a couple years ago, with the Jags a couple years ago. It's just the Browns, same thing. It's bottom of the barrel teams. Want to see them do well. That's how the Commanders are this year. They're the fun team to watch. I like it. At 5, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here at 5. And the reason I have them above Detroit is because they took the game from Detroit. They had the same record. They're playing elite level football. I just couldn't put them below Detroit knowing that they took the game from them. And it's one of those things, we know they took the game from them. We expected them to win that game. We said that on the podcast all week that week. Tampa Bay is going to go out and win this football game. They did. And that's my rationale for them being above the Lions. Really like Tampa Bay. Really like the Lions. 2 definite playoff teams right here. Could see the matchup again in the actually play in the playoffs. But I got Tampa here at 5. That win was a really big win. I rate their wins very highly right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the spot for Tampa. Like, I don't. Like, they're playing really well. Baker's an MVP candidate at this point in time. It's so tough. Like, I feel like this whole 8 through 4 could be like written however you want.
100%.
But it's your list, it's my list, and we make them how we want. This is what we do here. 4. I hope you have the same spot. Houston?
No.
You have Houston higher. 4 is where I have the Houston Texans. So, honestly, this might be a little bit generous. At this moment in time, I think it might be. Look, like, Jacksonville, I get it, it's like a division game, and I know that they dropped one that was iffy. Offense is playing lights out. Like, the question was never there, but it's just, why are you going to be one of these teams that can win at home, but you're going to do like this struggle game like on the road? And look, I know it's early in the season. I just think people are going to regard this team and have such high expectations. This week 5, is a real challenge for them going against Buffalo. Buffalo coming off of a loss, they're going to be hungry, have to defend the home turf. Like, this is a playoff preview in week 5. And this game, I'm excited to watch. I wish it was more of like a primetime game, if you want me to be honest, rather than the Cowboys in Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. But I like Houston. You heard me talk about Nico Collins and the way I do. Diggs has fit there better than I ever thought he would. Tank Dell has kind of been, in hiding. Yeah. But I mean, there's not much more ball to go around, and Mixon's doing what he has to. Their defensive front is playing well. I would like to see their secondary play a lot better, though, if you want me to be honest with you, for a team that's in the top 5.
Totally agree. Steve, at 4, I have Buffalo. So
wow, you have Buffalo above Houston, behind Houston. Yep.
But I'll spoil it. It's 1 spot behind Houston. I think Texans are going to end up taking this game.
Elaborate, though.
I really do look at Houston. I do think they're the better team. I think they're going to get right better. I think they're the better coach team, and I like what they have more. Like, granted, Josh Allen is right now.
Josh Allen a better quarterback than CJ?
He's more valuable to his team, but CJ does a lot of. That's such a hard conversation to make.
I think I can easily say that right now that I would take Josh through 4 weeks. Yeah, sure. And that's not to like degrade CJ's game.
Totally agree, and I'm not saying that I'm taking CJ. I just think it's a super difficult conversation to have. maybe I am going Josh. Maybe I'm going CJ. I really like CJ's game a lot. I like his ability to spread the ball, and that's now what Josh Allen's been able to show me is he can spread the ball. He can make the right decisions. I like the ball CJ throws, though, and I like the camaraderie I've seen with his teammates more than I've...
What I'll say about Houston is, like, they really stretch the field. Like, and that's something that really... And you know, Washington, if they played the way that they did early and not getting Terry involved, they wouldn't have been 5. If you can stretch the field and be effective on all levels, short, intermediate, deep, ground, pass, whatever the case is, they're effective like that. And, you know, teams aren't scoring a stupid amount of points on them. So
They're not. The Ravens game is, again, a fluke. It's one of those ones that you kind of got to look and say, well, the Ravens are got to go out there and go get this game more than Buffalo needs it. I think that the Texans are a little bit better coached as well. I give the Texans a slight... It is the slightest of edges. As far as difference goes, it's like slight edge. 2, 3-1 teams here. Houston's my 3. I just think they're a little bit better. A little bit better. I like the talent too. I think they have better talent.
Yeah, I mean the talent is it is so good, and these are just the first rankings. So like, we know things like this. People are still going to get hurt. Like things are still going to change
this week too. Yeah. So this game is going to tell a lot. But I think this is going to be a game.
Kev, you're lucky you don't got to hear from us for another 4 weeks, dog.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. This is a game of the year candidate.
3. This is where I have the Detroit Lions. Okay. I just think that they're a more complete football team than the Houston Texans. I really do. I think they run the ball more effectively. I don't think that they have, you know, a Nico Collins at wide receiver, but Amon-Ra is pretty damn good. And Jameson Williams isn't Stephon Diggs, but he does things that Stephon Diggs can't do at this point in his career. And that's what they need. That's the type of offense. Tim Patrick looked great for Detroit for someone that they just kind of swept up from their practice squad, you know? So defensively, I think they have it. I mean, Hutch already had a game with 4.5 sacks. Terrion Arnold and the flags are concerning on the secondary, but I mean, for a rookie, like, what are we really expecting here? Like, come on.
Covering the elite of the elite receivers.
Yeah,
it's hard to do.
And Ben, there might not be a coordinator playing better in football than Ben Johnson right now. If you want to, Jared Goff was fucking 18 for 18. Like, can we clap it up for Jared Goff last night? Absolutely. Dude caught a touchdown and then threw it in the stands because he didn't give a shit.
Bro, he's the fucking man, dude. Everyone gave him so much shit so many times, and he just said, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and go play great football.
Am I kind of talking to you into wanting to have Detroit at the highest spot right now?
I love Detroit, but I went into this saying, listen, I'm going to take into account the wins, the losses, who you lost to, and Tampa Bay's a big loss, but I don't know, maybe. I still like. I really like the Texans, man. Something about
if Tampa didn't beat them,
the quarterback play is actually what elevates Houston above Lions to me. And Goff's played really good. CJ Stroud has that it factor, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think Goff ever has to be in those scenarios because of the way they run the football.
So good.
And honestly, like, I can't even say that they can't run the football because they do, no matter who it is, no matter the back either. Like Monty and Gibbs both eat. Like it's the way it goes.
Perfect complement to each other.
They really are. And dude, the way Monty caught that ball and broke tackles last night. I know it was only one catch for him on the year, but bro, like, how does Chicago not give him $6 million and now pay DeAndre Swift that?
Bro, I'm just like, the way Detroit plays is when one guy plays well, it amps all their game up
to play so much better.
And then they go back on the sidelines. They're all hyped up with each other. They'll go party together after. Like, they are locked and they're a team. They're a family. The Detroit Lions are a legitimate family.
The only question that I really have, I don't even want to question Laporta. It's more like Amon-Ra's production. But, like, you're not going to sit here and yap about it because they're winning football games and playing great. But, like, if I had to be a stickler about something, I would say it's the secondary. I know Brian Branch was hurt, so I mean that hurts the Terrion Arnold conversation for sure.
For sure.
But it's, you know, Laporta and Amon-Ra, like, they're gonna need them to win football games at points in time.
Absolutely.
And 2 would be the Minnesota Vikings, and that would mean that the Buffalo Bills are 1 for me. Same 2 and 1.
No, I had Bills at 4. 2 is my I have KC at 2.
Oh wow. Wow.
I do. I mean, they're 4-0. They're winning games. It's not the prettiest, but they are winning games. And I get Patrick Mahomes has not played great this year. I still think they're going to go out there and win games, and I do think that the Chargers may sneak one from them, and the Broncos may make a tough game, but they're gonna go like 5-1 in that division.
Yeah,
they really are. Maybe 4-2 at the worst. I can't see it going worse at this point.
No, I agree.
All the shit I talked in the offseason, do they look worse than we all expected the reigning Super Bowl champs to be? Yes. But at the end of the day, they're winning games. I have to reward the fact that they're winning games. I appreciate
that out of you, Twon.
They're one of the only 4-0 teams. They're here at 2.
You know what I have to say about Kansas City, what they do better than anybody else in the NFL, and what the Patriots did so well when it came down to it. Regardless of how the game went, when it comes down to situations, they win those situations.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And like that's you're having your coach and your quarterback, the guy at the helm, reeling in that team and having someone on that defensive end that I personally think it's Nick Bolton. Chris Jones is an absolute dog in there, but as far as like a leadership on that defense, I really think like Nick
Bolton's I think he has to be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate at this moment in time.
He's playing such good football, and he's doing it from the middle linebacker position. We don't see that anymore.
No.
Like winning Defensive Player of the Year from that.
No, definitely not.
It's not.
And what I would say is they're doing all that with atrocious tackle play.
Atrocious tackle play.
Like so bad, bro.
Bro, I get it. I don't want to be the fucking refs guy, but like, how can you call these plays like the offensive? What is it when you're not all lined up on the
bro? Like they've had so many different calls for that. I think that's officials around the league with the offensive line calls. Like I'm not going to say that that's just Kansas City. Like those calls.
Twon Taylor moving all the time early too. It's like they're doing it a lot and they're never getting flagged for it. Where other teams are, they'll do it and they'll get flagged. I just don't feel like on the offensive line the flags come the same way. We can talk about the DPI winning them games, but at the end of the day, they have to make a play to finally win the game, and they do, and that's why they're at 2.
Absolutely, and we talked about Atlanta on the podcast a little bit more this week, but I want to go in depth more on Minnesota and Buffalo. I mean, Minnesota's beat legit contenders. Like
they're my one.
Yeah.
They're literally my one.
The only contender that they didn't beat was the Giants. Like, and that was like a pretty good game. Like, the Packers are legit contenders. The 49ers, contenders. You know what I mean? So
and they look fucking good, and it's on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Brian Flores has that defense dialed in.
No doubt.
And sorry. When we thought we'd say that about the Vikings, no one ever thought about the Vikings defense that way.
No, definitely not. We thought that they would be the 4th team in that division this year.
And Kevin O'Connell is the best play caller I have ever seen in my entire life. Done.
Coach of the year right now?
Right now, 100% coach of the year. Everyone was looking. Sam Darnold, trash. Oh, the Vikings are going to be shit. Oh, my God. Sam Darnold is bomb.
Dyson.
And I'm telling you, if he has most of the other coaches in the NFL, he may play well, but he's not playing at the level he's playing right now. And Kevin O'Connell has them reeled in. Every fucking play he calls works. Every single one.
Comeback player of the year, Sam Darnold?
Yeah, 100%.
Lock it in?
Absolutely. Unless Aaron Rodgers randomly turns into prime Aaron Rodgers, but like, no, it's Sam Darnold.
And I just want to elaborate a little bit more on Buffalo. I'm not concerned about the loss to the Ravens.
I agree.
I expected them to lose that game, if you want me to be honest. I do think, like, we know how the Ravens play in the playoffs and things like that, and when it comes down to it, that would be a damn good game to watch in the playoffs, especially if that was up in Buffalo. I do think Buffalo will win more games than Baltimore this year, and home seeding would be absolutely huge for them. If you want me to be honest, I feel like Buffalo has to be the favorite to win the title right now. I honestly feel that way. I think even though you want to talk about a lack of weapons, with the exception of, like, James Cook, I feel fully confident that with the weapons that they have are good enough to contend for a Super Bowl, and it's 10 times better than what the weapons Kansas City can roll out right now. And I think a lot of the matchups that we saw between Kansas City and Buffalo, that those weapons bailed them out at times, whether it was Kelsey Hill or etc. This year, the way James Cook is running and the way that their pass catchers are playing, I absolutely think that Buffalo is the team to beat in the NFL. Vikings would be an interesting matchup. We know that that's NFC. Texans would be an interesting matchup. We get that this week, and I can't wait. But there's not many teams I'm going to pick to beat the Buffalo. Like, maybe the Steelers could sneak one if Buffalo just had a shit offensive game. But their offense has is in no same conversation with Buffalo at all.
Yeah, Buffalo's going to beat themselves in games that they lose, other than the one they just lost.
Yeah.
Man.
You good?
Yeah, I just got stuffed up, but I'm so sad about Buffalo. The games that Buffalo lose, I think they're going to beat themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think the teams are going to go out there and just impose their will unless they somehow take Derrick Henry from the fucking Baltimore Ravens.
For sure.
That guy's playing on another level right now, dude.
My
He's
God.
not human.
My God. And I guess it doesn't take 30 carries for him to really dominate like that either. He's healthy. Justice Hill looks effective.
Super effective.
I don't even know if like Keaton Mitchell's going to have like that prominent of a role when he comes back with the way like those guys complement each other and the way that they've been playing. I just keep it kind of rolling the way it is. I know that they have like some questions still on like the offensive line and things like that, and I don't think that they've answered all the questions on defense or checked all those boxes. But I think it's really interesting to see how they stack up like against each other. But Kev, you'll be happy Buffalo is here on one, and they are the team to beat in the NFL.
Who is if you're going to pick a team right now, who finishes with the worst record in the NFL?
I mean, on this list or just entirely in the NFL?
In the NFL.
Oof. I'm sorry. I think the Pats got to be up there.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I do. Carolina is still going to be up there. Depending on what happens for the Raiders are going to be up there.
I'm going Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee and Miami.
Miami's one of those, but like if
I think Giants finished with better records than all those teams. If you want me to be honest with
I
you,
agree too. I think Giants will have games that they'll win. Giants will finish with 5-6.
I'm hoping at least.
I'm thinking these teams are going to have 2-3.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for these teams to win football games. On this list, what's a team that you feel like is definitely, I don't want to say definitely, but is likely not going to be on it next time?
Ooh, likely?
Likely not going to be on it. If San Francisco's in, does that mean Green Bay's out? You got a lot of NFC teams on there.
I do.
You putting Atlanta in that rankings. I know you are soon. You're looking for an excuse to put them on there, Twon.
I hate to do this.
Mine is the Steelers.
Mine might be too. I hate to do it. I'm going to say Washington.
Really?
They'll drop some games, and I think that'll.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this is a 13-win football team, but to say that they're not one of the better teams through 4 weeks.
They're playing fantastic.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
absolutely playing fantastic.
But I think they're more of like a 10-ish win football team.
I think they're sitting right there. I think 9-10's perfect for them.
Yeah. I mean, if they don't have more than 9 wins with the way that they start, I think problems start to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
but I think there's going to be a point in time where they're playing a little bit tougher comp. They played some winnable games. So.
Team that I feel like can move up the most here. I mean, Baltimore definitely can.
Sure.
Because they're at that 11th spot. But I mean, Kansas City at 9. If Kansas City finds a way to win the next 2 weeks with the way that their team is, I mean, it'll be really tough for me to have them outside at least the top 4 or 3.
So impressive. It will be so impressive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, 6-0 would be crazy. But
kudos to that fucking shithouse.
Since the Sandbox fans, after week 8, you'll be hearing the power rankings from us again. But you can also go over to our Instagram, and if you don't want to listen to our conversation, you could see our picks. But the conversation's so much, the conversation's so much better, and you're hearing it right now. So we love you for that. But this was round 1 of our power rankings to the first 4 weeks. Really excited to give this to you. But best of luck with your fantasy rankings and your gambling going through. We got the London games coming, so I had to drop a little bit of accent in there right now.
You do the Liverpool one, you scout.
Yeah, I don't got that. But you guys know the deal. We'll be back real soon. Peace, love, 5 stars, nothing less.